picking 2 straight Ornn games, and when you look at his champion pool, things like Kayle, Akali, Jace, Akshan, Aatrox, these are things that, we want to see Senpai try to carry these games, and especially with Siekomode not on that Jinx from Arcane and Oltan on the Lilia instead of that Wukong that really went off in game number 1. I mean, it's a little bit questionable for me, just in terms of seeing Senpai on something he might be a little bit more comfortable with as we head into this draft.
Today is a stressful day for the North because every one of our teams plays today, right?
Yeah.
And so over on the other stream, Converse just took a 2-0 against Bethany, which was quite a bit of an upset in case anybody's tracking what's going on inside of Collegiate. Yeah, that just happened. Michigan is here. It pushed to the limit against U of T. This could go against the side of the North once again. And then, of course, you have MSU afterwards on another stream, and then after this, you have ISU as well. I mean, the Northern boys, they need some confidence, man. They need some.
There's a ton of North teams here. I think that just kind of goes to show how strong they are as a conference. But we still have what? We still have more tomorrow. Slew's playing York as well tomorrow. I think on Unified 2. So make sure to check that one out. I think that one's going to be a really, really good series.
It's going to be one of the best, yeah.
Enough about that. We're here into the draft. Game 3, winner go home between Michigan and University of Toronto. Starting off in the ban phase. Oltan not going to be able to get that Wukong.
Nope. They're not going to let him have it back. And that's within reason because Oltan was really, really good at that Wukong setting up the remainder of the team, especially if you go with a Galio for DeafRef in the mid lane. That combination was extremely good, so it's not shocking at all. And they're continuing with this Kassadin and this, what I have to assume is going to be the Veigar pinch-off, making sure DeafRef can't play for late game as much as he would want to. Or at least if he's forced into team fighting, he's not one of these damage dealers that's going to come out in the late game and kind of take things over. There's no comfort allowed for him at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the name of the game for Michigan. And even though we were talking about Oltan and Siekomode as being the sort of hype, the main carries for Toronto, it really has been DeafRef that Michigan has been targeting in the draft. Tons of bans towards that mid lane, forcing him to picks that he might not be as, like the Galio and the Talon, which of course he can play and has shown he can play, but again, it's not the Kassadin, it's not the Veigar, it's not things like the Akali as well, or the Mordekaiser, which actually is still left up after this first phase. I don't know if Michigan can play this one, so maybe Toronto want to spice things up on this first rotation.
It could. The biggest thing also is that there's the counter pick opportunity. Jinx from Arcane, by the way, through the draft as well.
True.
Could just be the immediate pick from DGMaster, which would not shock me in the slightest, given how much that champion's been able to do. Shamwwow can play weaker side tank top laners, but doesn't have a tendency to do so that often. And when he does, I don't think it looks as good as some of his more carry-oriented weak side stuff, like the Gangplank, where you can leave it alone. So if he's on something like the Ornn, coming in with Jinx from Arcane, then it's a question of it's not a question of whether Michigan can make the team fight work. It's a question of can they set up Senpai for something damage heavy that can respond to that.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see if we do see Shamwwow on something like the Ornn, because as you said, it's not something really in his arsenal for the most part. Has a couple of games on it throughout the season in the North Conference, but he really does like his carries. And so if you're Toronto, you're in an interesting predicament here. Do you leave the Ornn up for this rotation, or are you forced to lock it in for Senpai again because you are scared of that combo coming through? Instead, it looks like they're going to willingly let it through. Ezreal, Viego, the 2 picks up for Toronto. We have not seen this entire series.
No, we have not. We haven't seen it all day. The Viego was in the first series as a little bit of a pick, but it didn't end up working out all that well. But this is Oltan, who's had a couple of good games and has been a really solid for UOT pretty much the entirety of the season, especially in this series, jumping onto something more carry-oriented, saying preemptively that there's nothing that they can pick that he would be afraid of against the side of Jouzef to be able to work with. This is also something that we haven't seen really is the Ahri pickup, which has been the standard kind of go-to control mage blind pick for most mid laners. It hasn't popped up today pretty much at all. I think it was banned in one of our first series games. But here, first time it's coming through, not shocking to see Omly onto that one. And here's the question. Jungle counter, or do you go Ornn?
We'll have 5 seconds to figure that one out, Rebel. Going to be a jungle pickup for Jouzef. At least coming in to match alongside some of the early proactivity that the Ahri can provide. Ornn hovered on the side of Toronto. Wouldn't be surprised to see Senpai play that for that 3rd game in a row. But again, has the potential to maybe go for something a little bit more spicy. Toronto's on red side. They can hold this counter pick now that they already have champions locked in for Oltan and Siekomode.
Oh, okay. Well, they've gotten themselves a situation where they go for their support, just making sure to grab the Rakan as fast as possible. And again, this with an Ezreal has a tendency to be a lot more of a roaming and map impact type champion, which makes some sense because Viego isn't the most active to begin the game. Oftentimes, like if you see him, he'll play into the opposing jungler as a one-on-one because his auto attacks and his resets and everything else. He's got a lot of single target damage to work with, just doesn't have that much range or CC to really gank lanes with. But Rakan can help with that quite a bit. And so, especially with Ezreal, like I said, being able to move out of the laning phase, you lose a lot of bot lane priority, a lot of bot lane wave clear, but you do gain a lot of access to the remainder of your map when it comes to playmaking potential.
Yeah, so a little bit more safety on the side of Siekomode will allow for Blue to get up onto the map alongside Oltan on the Viego. Second phase of bans unlocked. Top lane, the focus here for both of these teams. Fiora and Akshan taken off the table. Akshan is one of those carries that Senpai likes to play. Ornn, crucially, is still on the board.
Is able to be taken if you absolutely wanted to. And both sides banning off like these really damage-heavy characters that seem to do well into tanks or be able to kind of zone out members, because Akshan is favorable for Senpai and also can be played into tanks. And you can see the damage dealers. It's the Fiora and it's the Gangplank taken off the board from Shamwwow. To me, this is indicative of the fact that UOT is going to pick Ornn in the top lane. Like that's going to happen if they don't ban it right here. This is also, it's possible they're baiting that and they're like, okay, ban Ornn, it'll be a waste of a ban because we're picking something else anyway, but this is a possibility that they could go for. They do see the mid lane pick as well, so I think just having the ability to grab a mid laner right here, the Mordekaiser would have been a cool flex pick between top and mid lane that would have likely gone into the hands of DeafRef if you felt comfortable in the Ahri matchup, so nice on them to grab that one immediately, but it should be mid laner first because they see the Ahri already taking it.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. DeafRef has been, picking earlier on in the draft than some of his other opponents, but instead, see a hover here. I'm not going to see it locked in just yet. No. Instead, it is the Kayle for NøticeMeSenpai, the most played champion for him throughout the Eastern Conference. Gonna get some hyperscale in here, Rebel. This is what we were talking about, man.
And now it's the question of, first off, is it flexible? Because there is an Ahri in the mid lane, and you don't necessarily ideally want the Kayle into the Ahri in the mid lane, because I don't think that's a particularly good matchup for Kayle. But why would you give away your top lane Kayle pick here and now, unless you were really convinced they're picking Ornn? If they pick Ornn, then you have a decently free laning phase. Not a free laning phase, mind you, but a decently free laning phase. One that can be abused heavily by Jouzef, because, that's that. And then, pre-level 6, I think it's really difficult to manage this lane as Kayle as well. That seems weird to me, actually. This is really weird. I feel like these champions are now out of order if they get picked like this. Like, you could have picked Galio at R4 and then waited on the Kayle pick till R5, and that would have been the exact same as anything else. But, nonetheless, I mean, we're getting a Kayle pick. We're getting Senpai's kind of bread and butter. This is the goon shenanigans that T is going for.
Oh my goodness. Let's just confirm where these picks are going. DeafRef Illaoi mid lane here for game number 3. A trip to the Sweet 16 on the line, and Toronto pull out the goon shenanigans, Rebel.
Are you kidding me, UOT? You've gotten worse over the years somehow. Last year, you were subbing in a TF1 trick into your mid lane, and now you're playing out Illaoi mid lane in the middle of nowhere. How in the world is this team real, Grapes? How is this team real?
This is Toronto League of Legends. This is what we wanted to see. This is what got them into top 8 last year. And, hey, this is a very interesting team composition that Toronto have set up. You have a lot of scaling here on the top side of the map for Senpai on the Kayle. Also, Siekomode will be rather safe throughout. This mid-jungle, I have no idea how this is going to function here, Rebel, because, Illaoi can be an impressive top laner, but against an Ahri in the mid lane, things might get a little bit interesting.
She is really bulky, and she's difficult to play against at the very beginning of the game because her tentacles just control so much space in the mid lane that you do have that going for you, which is one thing. You're playing into a ranged champion, that's difficult. Ahri is also going to be difficult to kill because she's very slippery, so I don't think you're anticipating necessarily that the Illaoi versus Ahri matchup is what you really want, which tells me that there's something that they see about this Illaoi pick that is super good, or it's just DeafRef preference 100%. He just decided that this was going to be the pick for him. It's also possible they're lane swapping. I didn't consider this, but it's possible that Senpai is a good Kayle player, and they say, can you play Kayle into Ahri? And they go, sure. And they're like, okay, DeafRef, what you got in the top lane? He's like, I smash Ornn with Illaoi. And that's what they end up doing. I don't think that's completely out of the realm of reality. My problems, their only real form of massive engage is Rakan. Don't love that. Number two, there are a lot of damage, but again, being able to push forward into the enemy team, like they have kite back potential more than they have forward potential,
Right.
but into a Jinx, that's not always good either. So I have my qualms about U of T. This kind of looks like a game 1 draft for Michigan, where I don't know how cohesive it's going to be, but it's going to be fun nonetheless.
Fun definitely is the name of the game here for this one. Make or break for both of these teams. And for Michigan, you know, it's a bit of a bastion of hope here for the North Conference as well. Just receiving word that Bethany got 2-0'd by Converse as well. And so that's a pretty big upset, if we do say so, on one of the other streams here. Definitely not a 2-0 was what we were expecting out of that one. So Michigan trying to hold the North Conference strong with the victory over the 4th seed in the East.
Don't want to go losing so far, because the fellows sitting behind you and the fellows over the next couple of days desperately need this type of a win. And it's a composition that, to me, University of Michigan was kind of set up to be performing on as we walked into a series like this, right? You have this Ornn, you got the Jinx. That's been the combo of the day to be able to work with inside of Collegiate, is the textbook bread and butter. We're going to team fight and beat you composition. You throw that into Omly's kind of class as well, where he's got like a control mage, assassin, very, very mobile, able to make a lot of impact. And the biggest thing is that Jouzef's on a playmaker. Getting this young professional grade talent on this Lee Sin to be able to make an impact on this map, especially when you have such intriguing champions that can be put down early. Think about an Illaoi when she's weak, when like she's not able to accomplish anything. Kayle when she's weak gets put so far down in the dirt that it's difficult to ever come back in a game if they get put too far behind. This is the difficulty. Michigan feels like they've got the composition and everything that they need to play against this, unless we are really astonished by the mechanics that end up coming out from U of T on these strange champion picks.
Will the goon shenanigans of Toronto hold through? Or will Michigan's standard team fighting composition get them to the round of 16? On to the Rift! It's game 3 here in the round of 32. CLOL has been insane so far in this first day Rebel. We see another 5-stack coming out from UMich. They're going to get spotted on the ward, so I don't think anything's going to happen off of this.
They are swapping top and mid. So this was Senpai saying, hey, I see the Ahri pick. We know that's, like, we see this coming from a mile away. They understand what the Kayle matchup looks like in the mid lane. I know for a while there, Kayle was also a mid laner on top of being a top laner. And if Senpai truly is a Kayle connoisseur, hats off to you, Mr. Gentleman Senpai, for having that champion in the back of your pocket. Taking it into the Ahri has to be something that he's prepared for, because otherwise, like, there's no way you get through a draft like this and you go, oh, let's flex Kayle mid lane with Senpai. This had to be Senpai standing up saying, I want this, right? I want to be able to punish with this. And DeafRef plays a billion champions and probably was just like, what mid lane champion that I have like played around with is going to be capable of taking a top lane matchup up against the Ornn? Allow it. Like, what are they going to do? Gank me? I'm just going to kill both. That must be the intention here. U of T pulling not even a rabbit out of a hat at this point. It's like a hat out of a rabbit. I guess is the best way I can put it.
No one could expect this, I don't think. I was looking, we did some prep for this series, obviously, and looking at DeafRef's champion pool that I wrote down, no mention of Illaoi, of course. We had some crazy things. We had like Soraka, maybe. We could pull out the Galio, the Talon, things like that. This is very, very different. We talked about how Toronto did some role swaps last year to get themselves to that round of 8, but nothing like this, so to speak. I will say I do like this Illaoi matchup into Ornn. Shamwwow really won't have much to do throughout this lane and can really get punished by DeafRef if he's put in the right situation.
So I don't know if you know this, Grapes, but for a very long time I have been advocating on a very serious level that Illaoi Ivern should be played more often in Collegiate. Because I think it's a disgusting combination. Now, they don't have the Ivern, which is the more important part, because shielding and delivery of the Illaoi into the enemy team is what's really important about that combination. Right. But this is a mean champion when you're able to operate it very effectively. Use of the E is something to pay attention to into tanks with percentage health damage. Something else, a lot of sustain with like the tentacle hits and things like that. And you'll see it again and again. He's just going to push as much as possible into Shamwwow and make this lane uncomfortable for him to actually play out. I wonder if Oltan is able to capitalize on this, because if Oltan is able to get up here and start trying to punish the Ornn additionally on top of what the Illaoi already does, things could get very bad for the Ornn. They could put it behind in a significant way and mean that it never scales for the team fight the way that it wants to.
Yeah, and it's a standard Illaoi play. You know, push these waves really far in as quickly as possible, and then try to throw out the E while Shamwwow is waiting for his wave to get back in so he can't duck behind the minions, and you try to do damage that way. That's how you get the advantages here in this matchup, and so far working well in terms of HP. Maybe not as much in terms of CS, but I'm sure that'll get equalized sooner rather than later due to the amount of pressure that DeafRef has had in this lane. Down mid lane, NøticeMeSenpai doing a fairly decent job at this point. Full HP, has not burned a potion just yet. Doing a good job at staying alive despite a slight CS gap.
It's a matter of really Senpai just needs to get to 6 to become a range champion and to have access to the Deathless ultimate, but they're going to try to hit him before that, which makes a lot of sense.
Omly has the flash dredge line, but it will go straight through. Senpai flashes face forward, and that is first blood onto Omly to start things off.
This is the whole... Oh, excuse me. This is the whole point behind taking like the Kayle mid, is just to be very defensive and to try to get a good matchup, try to scale up as much as you can with all these minions flooding into mid lane. But unfortunately, it also opens you up for a lot of potential to get brought down when you are this ranged champion that doesn't have access to your range quite yet. You're just a melee champion without that much wave clear, without any really built-in sustain. It's a difficult time to be a Kayle. And so, this is the one place on the map that I think putting a lot of focus makes sense for a number of different players here, and you can see them capitalizing on it already. It's a place where Jouzef's able to go. The flash in a diagonal line to Somä was more a good prediction from Somä, I think, than anything else. So I want to give props to him right there for being able to actually find that one. Good roam from him to be able to punish this mid lane Kayle and be able to utilize that properly. It's also his summoner spells that go down, which means, of course, the Lee Sin can always take another visit to this lane if you want with flash. Putting this Kayle down early, really beneficial. It also gives level 6 to Omly before the level 6 comes over to Senpai, and that means that you can take advantage of all of the mobility Ahri has for potential kill threat at that point as well.
So Senpai not using the teleport, instead just waiting for Omly to crash the wave down, so he will be able to pick up a fair amount of CS without expending that summoner spell. So not all is lost for Toronto. Of course, they have the massive scaling of the Kayle if you can eventually get to that level 16 mark, but right now, Michigan is in a good spot to end the game before that if they keep playing their cards correctly. Use Omly to open up the map and allow for him and Jouzef to get kills onto the board and continue the snowball that has started to roll.
And now it's a question of what UOT can actually do with this team composition in the beginning of the game. What are they allowed to do with a composition that sets up like this? And there's things that you have to pay attention to. The first thing is, of course, with Rakan, you have the ability to hit multiple people with multiple CC moves in an AoE. And the setup is definitely there for an Illaoi to be able to take advantages around big and neutral objectives. Maybe not the dragon at the beginning of the game, but around second, third, fourth dragon, that's when the Illaoi can start to make her way down here. And they can start to try to push the advantage with their top laner. DeafRef might be that big kind of difference maker in that regard. Number 2, you can do the same thing around the Rift Herald, which means you could try to take an early gold advantage by pumping gold into either Illaoi or into Kayle, somebody like that. And it's not experience, doesn't get you level 16 faster, but at minimum, it's a little bit more in terms of itemization that you're able to utilize. Importantly, also, like, Senpai's level 6, being able to cast that ultimate onto Illaoi lets her get into the backline more effectively than what you normally would. And that means that, like, if you start to cluster really heavily as Michigan, then it's hard to do. So that means they're good at attacking or defending up against no matter what happens around neutral. So I think that's their primary focus.
This is the Q. Gonna go for the steal anyway. Will get locked up by the Spectral Maw. Don't think it's gonna matter all too much. Oltan still has that flash, so will be able to walk out rather safely. Also has big support coming out from the bot lane, but Michigan looking to make a play down here. Omly has level 6. Senpai just hitting it. Kayle does have the teleport, so I think that that's enough dissuasion for Michigan to back away.
Not enough of a setup right here, I think, to punish enough to where it was going to be valuable for Omly to stay around. Where, like, if Omly stays around too much, you're all of a sudden giving, like, the pushing lane back to Kayle. You're letting her, like, scale up to 6, and you're not able to take advantage of that lane nearly as much as you would want to, as now level 6 is held.
Oh, Ignite already popped. DGMaster in a lot of trouble. Siekomode looking to go forward. Heal pop. Zap going through, but it's not going to do too much. Oh, DGMaster is so low. Siekomode likely to finish the job. Mystic shot misses, but the autos are coming through. 1 auto and 2. Another kill onto the board, this time for Toronto.
And it takes a long time for these champions to get into the right position, right? 2, 3 item marks is really what you're looking for Ezreal and for Kayle to start pumping out damage.
Uh-oh, Senpai in trouble as well. Here comes Jouzef trying to get this down. Divine Intervention is enough to try and delay, but not enough to save his life. Senpai dies again.
Yeah, probably not worthwhile utilizing that ultimate. Again, with the mobility of both the Ahri and the Lee Sin, it's way too easy for them to be able to capitalize on this specifically. So there's that to consider when you're talking about these things. Oltan just being a little bit of a troll, throwing a Q in. Jouzef did have the kick.
Yeah.
He couldn't flash it, though, I don't think.
It was scary a little bit as Oltan. Now he's level 6, so it's at an even state. A little bit easier now. It does get chunked out by Omly. So let's take a look at the general state of things right now. Gold dead even at this point, but I think the thing that we have to talk about here is how punished did Kayle get throughout that. Died twice, down 20 CS. Not super horrible, all things considered, I would say.
So, actually, bottom lane, DGMaster is just getting...
He might be the one getting punished. Yeah, wow. That's a lot of damage.
So the biggest thing is that if this is the playmaking combination that's going to work out for UFT, like, you have to attack it pretty quickly. Because, like, an Ezreal does similar things in terms of, like, kiting and in terms of damage to a Kayle. The difference is like, Kayle's has really big AoE and Ezreal's doesn't. It's more single target because that's what happens with your autos and your Qs. They only hit one target at a time. But that's not to say that the champion doesn't have really good scaling to late game the same way that a Kayle does. It's just not in the same way. So if Ezreal's scaling, that's really nice. And I like to say that, like, okay, I'll hold this for just 1 second because there's a bit of a Rift Herald shift coming in through here. But what I like to say about Kayle is that she's a little bit of a combination of wanting gold and experience because you need level 16 and you need 3 items before you start to feel like an absolute monster. And so you have to shut her out of both. And killing her off is the best way to do so, but in the mid lane, it's even harder to clamp off that kind of consistent gold value that you're getting because more waves are coming in over time to mid lane, or they're coming in faster to mid lane, and it makes it harder to try to abuse with jungle pathing and things like that. So there's at least that to consider as well when it comes to Kayle being able to just absorb waves in the mid lane against the Ahri.
Somä and Jouzef looking for an invade. It's a little scary. Rift Herald was, I believe, secured here by Oltan, and they're going to summon it up in the top lane. Funneling some gold into DeafRef, and now Siekomode might be in a bit of trouble as a 3v2 emerges here for the Wolverines. Charm not issued just yet, but finally finds the mark in onto Siekomode. Big shutdown onto the Lee Sin.
Everything they needed. Now, the trade-off is, of course, top lane, where Illaoi is pulling a bunch of gold. They got first tower. Everything kind of goes into their pockets with this one. They actually get half of another tower as well. Yeah. Man, they are just leaving Shamwwow on an island against this Illaoi. Goodness gracious.
I feel like you normally see this when Shamwwow's on something like the Camille, or he can kind of hold his own a little bit more. But now in the Ornn, he's really getting punished here. I mean, he's done a good job at trying to stay alive in terms of CS. Is only down about 10 and is working towards, I believe, an Anathema's Chains to just kind of deny as much damage as possible. But you can see how much work DeafRef is putting in up top.
They're just cutting an island. It's really weird because I feel like so far, like UFT, like they've almost baited Michigan into being like ignoring the Illaoi entirely just because they've got a Kayle and an Ezreal on the other side of the map. Which, like, that's not really a bait, right? Because, like, the Kayle and the Ezreal are the ones that need to scale up. The Illaoi really doesn't do that nearly to the same level that those other two do. But it has allowed for a very free laning phase for DeafRef to just be able to take advantage. To the point where, look at that, Hullbreaker done this early, has the Sheen as well to prepare for what might be Divine Slither, and that combination of items, again, in a solo lane, difficult to deal with if you're Shamwwow. So, in, like, that one-on-one, if you continue to leverage it, and you continue to put it on an island, it's gonna get worse and worse for you. DeafRef might just push to Inhibitor Tower before you have a chance to really find these big fights.
I know fans of the Baust FFS know very well that Divine Thunder is very good into tanks and will have so much value, especially on somebody here like this Illaoi. Hullbreaker completed as well. Just so accelerated at this point.
Oh, goodness. It's Anathema's rush because I think he feels so frustrated by just the Illaoi damage. He has to go single target. It's so ridiculous that he rushed Anathemas.
If you are Shamwwow, you want to get in onto these team fights, but you're forced here to match the Illaoi. You can't really go for the 5v5 without losing a whole lot. Let's see what happens here, though, as the Heartbreaker will be used defensively here for Oltan. Popping the Kayle ultimate to buy some time, and now Omly has to flash away as well. Blue is very low, has a battle lance to escape. Jouzef, nice buffer out of Siekomode to get the kick away. But Michigan still have the numbers advantage, and they're still going to be starting up this Hextech Drake.
Not a half-bad team fight. Again, ideally, I think UFT would have wanted to really kind of generate a situation in which Illaoi was going to join them in team fights in the majority of time if you're going to set up inside and you're going to wait for them to come in and attack you. But here, again, bottom lane is the focus, Dragon is the focus, DeafRef just gets the tower. Like, they are giving a lot to Illaoi. They're not concerned with DeafRef in the slightest, which is putting off alarm bells in my head. Now, in fairness, they're up 2 dragons. They've got a composition that spikes pretty quickly on, like, first, second item, and so they're going to be able to team fight really effectively. But UFT does have things going for them in this game. They're even in gold. In fact, they're actually ahead in gold because of the amount of towers that DeafRef has been able to take in the top lane.
If production can show us the gold graph right now, just to see the difference between DeafRef and Shamwwow as kind of the difference maker in this game, I mean, that would be a very interesting stat to look at. Michigan took that tower in the bot lane. The turret plates are still up. We feel like we're at this late game stage in the game because of how far up DeafRef is on the map, but the plates haven't fallen yet. These are still opportunities for both teams to get a little bit of extra gold in their pockets.
They're just going to swap him in a bot lane. He's going to do the exact same thing all over again. And again, there's one armor, which is one thing for Shamwwow, which is nice. And I'm not famous. But, like, if you were to have multiple people there, all of a sudden the Anathemas loses so much efficiency. In exchange, the Hullbreaker obviously loses efficiency, but Shamwwow doesn't live. If you put him on bot side, which he's doing, like, I think right now, the Illaoi is heading towards bot side with the support of the Rakan. You probably pull another couple plates here, probably at least 2 before the actual timer ticks off, especially if you got the Rakan cover. That TP is going to be used for more. They literally, they can't leave him alone. Like, they're actually getting plates. It's a question of how long this can last. How long can they buy time with DeafRef just pulling attention across the map, making sure Shamwwow can't be in full team fight, before they really have to commit to something big, before they have to commit to a team fight on the other side of the map?
Shamwwow actually holding his own a little bit here with the Anathema, so really nice itemization there to at least, you know, maintain a little bit of survivability in this side lane, but DeafRef still, you know, taking over here in this game, at least early on. Plates just about to fall. I believe we have another freeze on our screen right now, looking to resolve that as soon as possible, but if you are here for the side of, you know, Michigan, have to be a little bit careful of DeafRef.
Okay, so far, just taking kind of a stock standard of everything that's going on right now, just making sure we have all of our eggs in a line. The Ezreal's feeling good in this game, right? We have a mid lane that's going not great for Kayle, but, like, that's kind of what Kayle is, especially when you ganked 2 times in the beginning of the game, you end up going down. So far, they haven't been coaxed into a massive team fight. The only big team fight we saw, they were able to kind of skirt around and not worry about too much, and they gave up a dragon for it. Eventually, they're going to build themselves around this Illaoi, who is going to be an incredibly powerful member of the team. And it's a question of how easily the other side is going to be able to deal with the Illaoi in a team fight if it were to come up. Or are they actually just willing to wait this game out? How do you think that U of T could wait 40 minutes in this game without Michigan being able to deal like a death blow?
It's hard because, you know, you have so much early game agency. This Ahri Lee Sin hasn't done as much as I might have liked in terms of going around the lanes, maybe trying to impact here. Back to live immediately. NøticeMeSenpai coming down right as I say that Jouzef and Omly show up.
Yeah, so this is the more active part of this game that I want to see from Michigan. Being able to utilize this mid-jungle combination, as powerful it is, to aggress against these kind of very scaly champions that aren't going to be able to do much. This is Kayle versus the Jinx. They feel comfortable in this one-on-one situation. Somã's able to slip in behind, and I think it's just punishment that goes on to the Kayle. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! Oh, Somã ends up landing the hook just because Senpai dodges back into it, and that could have been a lot of damage that wasn't there. You can see 2 members trying to flank around the side as well. It's just to catch out onto the Kayle that was just trying to absorb a side wave. But this is the control they need to exert across the map. They need to not let the Kayle take a bunch of waves. They need to not let the Kayle scale up freely inside of a game like this. And the Ezreal, it also takes time. It's harder to make sure that happens because he's a very safe champion. Nonetheless, you're seeing them continue out a game. They're seeing them, play out these very scaling type champions, and you're seeing DeafRef continue to kind of rip through on side lanes, which is incredible to see. How much time can you buy? I think also dragons have to be under consideration. When 3rd dragon comes up, when 4th dragon comes up, they are cloud drakes. They are still very powerful to deal with.
Down to the bot lane again, Rebel, just really quick. We had the pause. And then we had one fight on the top side. And in that time span, DeafRef took the entirety of that tower. Sure, plates were only there for about half of that span, but the pushing power of DeafRef on this Illaoi is certainly there. That was with Shamwwow basically defending the entire time, clearing the waves as fast as he darn could. But eventually, Oltan coming down to the bot side to allow that tower to be broken open. And despite the kill lead here for Michigan, Toronto's still up in gold.
They are. The side lane gold into the pocket of DeafRef has been humongous to be able to deal with. And again, in reality, Michigan is leading this game for all intents and purposes. They've got a powerful mid-jungle duo. Their team fighting looks like it's a really good, especially for late game when the time comes. The one thing is, like, U of T's damage scales really well, but it's an incredibly hard composition to kind of deal with. And they're another pick onto blue where, like, again, control of the entire middle of the map feels like it's entirely in Michigan's possession, right? There's nowhere you can be on this map for U of T in the midst without vision control that you're allowed to be legally without somebody allowing you to be there from the side of University of Michigan, which is exactly how they need to be working this composition because they don't want Ezreal and Kayle to get onto late game. They want to be able to win this game before they really give them a chance to get where they need to go.
Really crucially, level 11 just hit by NøticeMeSenpai. Dragon spawning in 7 seconds. We see the reset coming through from the Kayle, but the setup is not just there for Toronto. They're going to have to go in to Michigan to deny this soul point, which is not something that we necessarily often see out of a composition of this nature. Dragon started up. It is just that cloud, as you said, Rebel. He will miss. DeafRef not with a lot of power at this point. Shamwwow in here with the Ornn will just knock up the Illaoi, just buying as much time as possible. Look at the turn on the other side. Big lockdown onto Senpai, and blue falls first in the fight. Watch the resets though. Oltan getting 1 possession. Dragon still alive on the other side as DeafRef is doing wonders onto Shamwwow. And here come the resets again. Senpai picking up the shutdown onto Omly. DGMaster forced to run for the hills. And DeafRef doing all he can to prevent the Dragon from going to Michigan's hands. U of T deny the soul point.
Graves. How did they win that fight?
I have
How?
no idea. I have zero idea.
They get pinched into this small space, right? And I wasn't expecting this to happen, but like you're fighting on a split front. Like you got a 4-1 fight on both sides, where like Viego's on one side, Oltan's able to come in on a nice flank. The ultimate kept Senpai alive. That's how it happened. He was able to keep himself up during the course of that one. They don't lose the Kayle, and the backup is still there from Siekomode. And so they have 2 damage dealers, and Oltan comes in untouched off the back of a side flank because Ornn is dealing with Illaoi, and it meant that this reset came through. This take of Soma's body was there to be able to shove them out. It was just like they kept funneling into all of the damage that came through from UOT, and it meant that they took too much damage on their way out. So that's a trap. They got 5 minutes. Great.
5 more minutes. That's all they need.
They,
and at this point here, Rebel, I'd like to do something. Okay, we're at this point in the game, 18 minutes in. Look at Senpai's level. Okay, say it with me. 5 more levels. 5 more levels. 5 more levels. That's all we need for Toronto. Kayle getting unlocked there, had a double kill, I think, off of that play, so getting even more accelerated at this stage.
This is insane to think about. First off, I don't think DeafRef has dealt damage to anybody but Shamwwow. I'm 100%. If we could see a damage split of that, like if we had that specific of split, almost certainly Shamwwow has not taken, or like only damage has come through from DeafRef. We are 2-item Ezreal, right? We're getting close to 2-item Kayle because the side lane is almost there. Illaoi is still the side lane menace, and they have not touched her once. Only now are you seeing multiple members roaming into that lane, and there's already tentacle set up to work with.
This is the limit test right now. What can DeafRef do? It looks like it's going to be 3, maybe 4 members collapsing in onto the Illaoi right off the bat. The Leap of Faith hasn't been used just yet. The Ornn here just to lock him down. No damage has been taken just yet by DeafRef, and he goes for the ulti. How much can this Illaoi buy in terms of time? The healing is so good, but it's not going to be enough against the 4 members of Michigan unless he goes for a turn. How is he still alive? He's healing so much. Finally, DGMaster takes him down. But look at the time that bought Toronto. They take the tower in the mid lane, looking to crack the base open just a little bit. And hey, Rebel, it's 4 more levels. 4 more levels for Senpai. He's at level 12 now.
See, this is why I wanted to see action happen at the beginning of the game. Because now, Illaoi is a problem, and you have to put legitimate resources into her to stop her from just bullying out the Ornn consistently. The Rift Herald play is really nice because he's going to get gold into DGMaster. This is a great response. I was worried here that this was a trade-off of just a kill into the Illaoi with a bit of a shutdown in exchange for mid-tower, and also free farming potential from Senpai. Oh, the eye didn't reveal itself, so they weren't able to stop it before it crashed on the bottom side. But it is free time for your Ezreal and your Kayle. Like you said, 4 more levels, 1 more item for Ezreal, about 1.5 items, 1.25 items needed for Senpai, and all of a sudden the damage is online. You got all the damage in the world to work with. U of T, they're on a clock that is a scaling clock. Michigan is leading this game. Michigan has an advantage in this game, but that does not mean U of T is out yet.
Do they? I mean, look at the gold. 4 towers to 4. Gold is even. Michigan have 1 dragon advantage. That's all they have at this point. Of course, the champions, like in the way that they function right now in a full 5-on-5, probably favor the Wolverines at this point. But Toronto's in an absolutely phenomenal spot at this stage in the game.
The biggest thing is Jinx is also still powerful, which means late game, when it comes to range advantage, that is huge as well. Michigan is going for a really significant play.
They're taking the Baron. No vision available. It's 21 minutes in the game. Why would you expect this? The gold is dead even. Blue, you have to tell your team they are doing the Baron right now. 5,000, 3,000 health. Can Oltan get there in time? The Call of Force God will knock him up. Baron is so low. Will the steal end up coming through? It is secured by Jouzef. Now the fight will begin. Grand Entrance will knock up 1 as Jouzef will be the first to fall. DGMaster is slowed up. This is the power of the Illaoi. Force the Gale Force away. The tentacles will start to spawn. What can Toronto do to try and punish this? The answer might not be a whole lot. Michigan get away with highway robbery, securing the Baron Nashor at 21 minutes.
Very, very unfortunate for U of T, because now it allows you in a number of situations here for Michigan to control things. You got mid lane set up to work with. You've got bot lane blue set up to work with. I think U of T is in the exact right position right now. You gotta choke up on this map, and you have to take the dragon on the way out. If you do those 2 things, the game continues, even if you lose gold, even if Michigan gets a lot of back. There's a potential that they can at least continue this, right? Right there also, if that DeafRef TP comes in maybe a second or 2 earlier, maybe a little bit faster, and you're able to combine that with Rakan, that pit becomes a tentacle swarm, and all of a sudden things go completely awry. I'm upset we didn't get a chance to see it, but it is possible. Resets come through from U of T. They got to compete for the dragon, I still think. I think they need to take this one away, because they'd only have 1 more chance, and the damage that's going to be done by Michigan, likely with this Baron buff across the map, will net them enough of a gold lead to probably still overcome the scaling that's still coming through from the Ezreal and the Kayle.
Mid-prio strongly in favor of Michigan. But 3 more levels, Rebel. 3 more
Three
levels.
more
Senpai's level 13. He has the Riftmaker completed as well. So it's not 3 just yet, but this is the top 2 that they want. But with all the pressure that they're spending on the top side of the map, Toronto's just going to take the Dragon. Yeah, it's just DeafRef on his own, down bottom, taking it away. They even up the count at 2-2. And they're in a very good spot at this point, Rebel. 10 minutes is the minimum amount of time Michigan can have to get this soul.
Not to mention move speed on Illaoi. Very good. Move speed on champions that like to kite backwards. Move speed on champions that auto attack. Always good things to have. Ezreal likes it. Kayle likes it. Illaoi likes it. Viego likes it. Rakan loves it to be able to get into the backline. This is the damage that's being done by Michigan. It's very tangible. You can see it. It's 1,000 gold lead difference. Yeah, actually, at this point, like 600 gold lead, something along those lines. The further in you push these waves, the easier it is to access for the Kayle, and the more damage you have to do in your coming moments, in your coming amounts of pressure across the map. Michigan is in a place where they have a gold advantage, and it feels like they should be able to express this a lot more than they have over the course of this game. But slowly, this game has turned into, is Kayle going to get there? Is Ezreal going to get there? Are they going to live long enough? Are they going to make it out? Will U of T survive? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Don't go anywhere. We're right here. Next episode, it's a rerun. We're right back.
Stay here.
We're here.
Watch the
Please
rest.
stay here. Watch this game. I will say, Rebel, I was holding my breath a little bit on that Baron buff because I think if Michigan was able to find a clean fight there, to have the Baron minions, that could have been the end of the game. And for someone who is really rooting for this game to go as long as possible, I think U of Toronto might have dodged one of their last hurdles so far until we get to that late game.
Now, we still have the conversation to talk about, which is that Ezreal and Kayle, they're both really good late game damage carries, but there's still nothing that soaks CC. There's nothing that soaks damage for this team. So Jinx still delivering rockets to the backline. Ahri still delivering rockets to the backline. And there's still an Ornn to be able to CC you. Jouzef still has the kick. You have ways to disrupt this team fight in ways. So they're still not past the final hurdle. They're waiting for their scaling to get here. Then they have to figure out the team fight. This is difficult still from U of T.
Yeah.
Not impossible. A lot easier when your scaling gets here and you start to get damage. But you still have ways to lose this game. Michigan still has ways to win because their composition is pretty easy to work with. You've got pick potential, you've got big team fight potential, and you've got a massive ADC to build everything on.
The big thing, I think, for Toronto is around these major objective fights, they need to get there first. They need to force Michigan to go into them because that's how these champions like to operate, kiting backwards and in turn and not going for those major engages. Jouzef lands that Sonic Wave onto Siekomode. You gotta hold your breath every time you're here. Michigan's still having a lot of priority over this map here, Rebel. They're going across all these different lanes, and DeafRef might be targeted once again here as Omly comes around. The Flash Leap of Faith will buy a little bit of time. The healing is coming through, but it's not enough. DGMaster picking up a crucial kill. Now in a 4v5 are the Wolverines. Senpai still pushing. It's 2 more levels, but will it be enough to save the game? Senpai is still around this bottom side, top side. He's going to have to go for a reset unless this base wants to be broke open.
They don't have wave clear, but there's no wave here from the side of Michigan. They can't push as much as they would want to off the back of this Illaoi death, which means they're going to have to wait for basically this wave to crash, and this is the only chance they're going to get because Illaoi's going to be back up before the next one. So if they can clear this one,
they got to go right now.
They gotta
This
go
is
now.
Michigan's time to go. Senpai is still clearing blue buff. He has a teleport to defend on the Nexus turrets if they want to. But Toronto will sacrifice their bottom lane inhibitor. Michigan trying to blow this game open before the late game scaling ends up coming through. Mid lane inhibitor turret goes down. Finally, Senpai arrives. Now take a look at the teleport. DeafRef is responding in 3 seconds. No vision around the area that much. And so with Michigan just backing off, Toronto have no response for their 2 inhibitors going down.
Rapes. Say it with me. One more
level. One more level.
Oh.
We are so close.
Okay, alright, I thought I was getting pranked right there. I saw a Rylai's and it went over DeafRef's picture because he's normally the mid laner.
Yeah, it's like
how
I
did
think it's a
Illaoi
bug
buy
here
that?
with the...
Do not tell me we're seeing Rylai Illaoi in this game. No, not the case. Instead, just more defense. We're getting into position. 3-item Kayle. We are almost on 3-item Ezreal. Level 16, we're encroaching upon that territory. Our camera people are staying on Senpai because he's trying to grasp any bit of experience he can get. He's trying to make it there because that's step number 1 for U of T. Michigan did a lot of damage to the base. Taking both bot and mid inhibitor means that it's really hard to respond to Dragon and Baron, especially on the opposite side of the map, when you have to have somebody here at all times. But Senpai just wants the side lane farm anyway, wants to hit level 16. If he can do that before Baron, before Dragon, that is a huge advantage.
Have to go quick. Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. Not necessarily crucial for either side at this point because it is 2-2 and neither team will secure the soul on the
Thank you,
take.
Observer.
Here we go. It's like an 80%
Come
speed run. You
on.
just gotta get the waves, get the experience. Here's the Krugs. He's gonna take the Krugs. 1 auto, 2 autos, lands the Q. But actually, hold on. We gotta be serious a little bit.
16.
Michigan starting off the Baron. He hit 16. Here we go. Fight will be beginning upon the channel, and DeafRef the first to fall. Jouzef picking up the kill. Now Baron at half HP. Can Toronto do anything to save it? Somã's so low. Here comes the burst. Shamwwow already taken low. Look at the grand entrance. The resets are in. Shamwwow is so low. He will be taken down. Rocket will find the mark onto the Rakan, but Jouzef is in the middle of the enemy team, and he will fall. Senpai's unlocked. No more levels.
There too. They have multiple carries still available. Oltan is still alive. Siekomode is still alive. They're getting the Baron buff. There has to be a challenge coming through from Omly, but Jouzef is down. They don't have a smite. The Baron might go to UOT. They might have turned the game.
So Superman is in the base. No teleport available just yet, so no chance at a back door. Only trying to find some sort of miracle steal, but it will be Oltan securing it with the smite. Now Toronto have to back away. Can Omly buy enough time? Shamwow's on the horizon as well. No Ornn, but he will be saving Senpai's back from going down. They're going to have to fight this the hard way if they want to escape the pit with their lives.
Flash.
Teleport coming in from DeafRef as well,
Here we go.
and that's a disengage coming through from Michigan. Toronto is on the board.
The gold is back in UOT's favor. They've got 3 item kills. They've got 3 item Ezreal. There's no soul yet, so there's no Elder Drake to work with. We have got Jinx Ornn versus Kayle Ezreal late game grapes. I don't know how many casters can say we've gone this late. We wanted the 40-minute dream. I don't know that we're breaking that point, but we've gotten the late game dream we've been looking for.
There's another series after this. I'm glad Desrex is taking over for me because I don't think I'll have a voice at the end of this.
No, I don't think so. Oh, it's incredible. How did we get 2 best of 3s with this much
Oh no,
anxiety?
here we
in
go.
this
Fight's
play?
already begun. Death charge onto Siekomode. He's gonna get knocked up. He's down. He's down. 1 down for Toronto. It's a 5v4. Baron buff still in the hands of Toronto. They still have the pushing power. They still have the waves. It's a 4v5 though. That's one of the crucial late game carries down, Rebel. Now the pressure onto the top side. 3 inhibs down for Toronto would certainly be a sign of doom.
Yes.
Shamwwow used the Ornn, so there's only 2 ultimates left on the Michigan side, but they're still at the 4v5. Oltan trying to save himself. Keep your eyes on Senpai. What can he do? How much time can DeafRef buy into the front line?
Trying to make sure that there's no way to push. They're just probably going to have to give up the top lane inhibitor. 10 seconds on Siekomode. They might just be here for the push. Michigan might be looking for their last-ditch effort, being able to make sure they don't have to take a fight to be able to win
Here
a
we
game
go,
like
Jouzef.
this.
Beautiful flash buffer out from Senpai. He is still alive. Senpai is still in the fight. Here comes the respawn.
Way out.
Siekomode is here. They take the 3rd inhibitor. True Shot Barrage
They're
coming
slowed.
out. Does a decent amount of damage. Here comes the slow onto Shamwwow. He will get chunked down. Here come the tentacles though. Michigan's going to have to dodge away from these. Looks like they will get out with their lives. 3 inhibitors down for the Wolverines. University of Toronto have the scaling. What is happening here in Game 3?
No, don't pause on me at this point. Okay, this is a replay. I was terrified for a moment. I heard a producer say something, but I didn't hear what it was. It's fine. This is just a play on top side. I love the fact that they play defensively. I think they need to give up the inhibitor as much as possible, because if they don't, they end up getting engaged on, and this is the moment that really Michigan was looking for. This flash,
Look at this.
crucial at the end. Not only not giving up the positioning, but not going down. Because, I mean, he could assassinate him just outright, but kicking him into the middle of the team, even if the Kayle ultimate is available, still puts you in dire straits to die immediately after it's down. So the flash necessary from Senpai. And the trade-off, of course, means that Jouzef doesn't have that one available for yet another in just a few minutes. Opens
Huge
up the
thing
possibility
right now.
for safety. Go ahead.
Huge thing right now for Toronto. Both their inhibitors are back up. Baron buff up for about 5 more seconds. But Michigan, they still are the ones pushing the pace. They're still in the Toronto side. And now, I mean, there's no turrets here, so UFT is going to have to fight this 5v5 if they want to defend their crystals again.
They bled out so much at the beginning of the game, and it's hard to kind of respond when you have this much damage dealt to your base. But UFT have the damage. They don't have the team fight set up. They have to rely on a solid team fight coming to them and playing reactively to it, which is one thing to mention. Defending their inhibitors off the push feels like you said there's going to have to be a 5-on-5. You have to push into DeafRef to make this happen. This little pinching of space between the two might be exactly what they were looking for. They're going to pull off the defense of it, man.
Inhibitor under fire. Here comes the Ornn.
go.
Watch DeafRef. He's taken. There's a leap of faith. So much healing. Charm onto Somä, and he's down. Watch the resets on the backside. The resets from Oltan are through. Jouzef forced to go away, but it is 4 dead on the Wolverine side. Toronto hold the line.
We push to far. They go in on Illaoi. How much pressure has DeafRef relieved from this entire team? But being able to do so, they're going to chase down Jouzef.
There it goes. Guardian Angel, he's dead. That's it. It's an ace. Look at the death timers. 20 seconds on Somä. 27 on to DGMaster. There's 5 strong on Toronto. They don't have a wave just yet, but it is slowly but surely crawling their way.
They're going to try to tank this tower. I think they just need somebody to stand there and make sure that it's going to be available for them to be able to snag up. They don't have DeafRef here either, so he's not going to be able to be that brick. So instead, it's probably going to have to be Oltan. They have a tiny wave. This should be enough to bring down the inhibitor tower or the inhibitor in the mid lane. And they can turn back and go for the dragon afterwards. Also, they have 25 seconds on Jouzef. They might not have time for it. Are they just going to push for the end?
Here
They're
we go.
waiting on a TP from DeafRef. They only have the
Yeah,
one
this
lead.
is
They have
so
one more wave.
risky.
They're gonna
This is
attack
so risky. Senpai's still alive though. Gotta watch the ultimate coming through. Big knockups in. Senpai's low. Senpai is down. Shamwwow picks up the shutdown. But what can Oltan do on the backside? Siekomode's forced to run away. They still have so many members here. The shutdown in favor of DGMaster. Siekomode has to run. He might find the kill onto Omly. But there is Shamwwow in the base. One Nexus tower still alive. Can he do it? The backs are coming through. He has to channel. 8 seconds. Shamwwow doesn't do a whole lot of damage to these towers. I don't know if he can take this one down. He's steering, charging forward. The Nexus is exposed. Here comes Siekomode. Can he defend the Nexus? Shamwwow, the tanky Ornn. Be much better if he was on Camille right now, but he's the front line here for Michigan. Siekomode continuing to rain in the Mystic shots. Not enough damage just yet, but you gotta watch the rest of the team on its way up. Shamwwow gets the ace. That is it. Hail to the victors. Michigan will go up 2-1 and go on to the round of 16.
Oh, I'm so proud of the Northern boys. I'm so proud of Michigan, but UT almost held out to the last possible minute. They made a call at the
Clip, the 27-minute one where Kayle hit 16.
face.
Oh,
What is that game? Great.
we sent it to the desk because we thought that the game was over, but we still have to talk about what just happened there because my hands are, I don't know if you could tell, my hands are shaking right now. This is just, oh my god. That was maybe the craziest thing I've ever seen in my 2 years casting League of Legends.
I have never seen a team bold enough to go for that kind of a scaling composition, throw an Illaoi into it, and try to play for that even give the dragon. They felt like they weren't able to get a proper fight consistently. They weren't able to put themselves in a good enough position, and the game had to end right then and right there just as fast as it started. And their composition, they were so patient for 30 minutes. They were so patient. They got their items. They did what they needed to, and they just were not capable of ending things out in proper way. What an insane game and series ending for round of 32.
That's a reverse sweep technically.
It is.
By the way, you know, Michigan fought back both in that series and in this game specifically. I mean, wow. It seemed like all the puzzle pieces were coming together. We were gonna get this big death ball from Toronto to just close it out, and it was fully completed. They accidentally dropped it at the wrong time. You know, I feel like in situations like that, if you go for, you know, another reset, another fight, could go more in your favor, but they just decided we're gonna go for broke right now. But it was just not enough. The rest of the team just continued to defend. Michigan held the line beautifully upon their respawns, and they are now moving on to the round of 16.
Can I just give props here, because it was resilience beyond hell from both teams. To be able to sit there with a scaling composition and bend but not break for that long and be able to get your kind of late game carries and the right items, U of T, well done. Michigan also, the mental resiliency to be up like 800 gold 90% of that game with a composition that clearly gets outscaled from a damage perspective and still say, like, we can do this. We can win. We can find a way. We will always find a way. And to come in clutch at the last possible second is incredible. Both teams' mentals have to be obliterated after a game like that, but props to them for being able to hold it in place when the time comes. And props to both teams for providing us what might just be the most exciting game of collegiate that I've seen in, like, years. That was nail-biting to the last second. Incredible.
What a game to cap off this series here, Revel. am gonna go like take a nap or something. Thank you for casting alongside me. I'll see you tomorrow.
Of course.
We're gonna throw it over to the desk really quick to break down just what the hell happened there.
Wow, 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 guys. That was an insane way to cap off our second series. I love how into it you guys were, Grapes and Revel. I mean, one more level. It was just so much fun to watch you guys cast. We've got a few minutes to cover this game before we have an interview with the winners of that match. And honestly, let's just dive straight into the clips because there was so much to talk about with that game. And if we get straight into the clips, the first one is actually this insane Baron team fight where they spent about 30 seconds tracking the Kayle XP. Was she going to hit 16? And she finally did. Oh my gosh. Break down this replay for me, guys.
Yeah, so
Well-
in this replay, it was just Kayle reaching level 16, finally hitting her power spike. U of T has one chance. She kills the Krugs and TPs this play, and they able to contest the Baron here. And I think just the Kayle was the one to watch, honestly. Jinx wasn't able to DPS too much after that first kill, and they're just peeling back, and Kayle just gets to pop off on the front line with Jinx not being able to DPS much. A really good Rakan engage to shut her down. Viego follows up, and now Jinx is flashing away while Kayle's DPS in the front line. It's a miracle fight for U of T that gets him back in the game, and I love the setup that we got from the casters to go on and talk about it too.
It was just so amazing. I mean, honestly, that moment had so much tension building up to it. The casters were hyping up, can Kayle hit level 16? Just barely squeaked out 3 items. And it really did feel like that was going to be the game for U of T, right? Such a commanding team fight. And it just all sort of fell apart. TJ, walk us through what the heck happened with those last 2 team fights.
Well, it was definitely something. Again, Kayle was going a little bit crazy. Unfortunately, here it doesn't go the way of U of T. If you're a U of T fan, we see Illaoi lose some HP, gets a get forced on, and ideally, Illaoi loves this, right? Like she loves being put into the back line. We see an insane Rakan engage, and this allows just U of T to go ahead, create a winning situation. Now from here, we see the sad emote from Jouzef, and we're like, okay, surely U of T can win this, or at least get a major advantage. We even get the at least in GA, so that's down for the next fight. Looking at the timers, it's a little bit overzealous, I think, to do this TP. I respect the call, but unfortunately, the positioning is just not there for this. We see that Kayle gets one auto attack off this entire time: knock up,
Oh.
into knock up, into dead. So even though this Kayle finally came online, you have late game Ezreal, you have the Viego ready for resets, they all just die. Which is so unfortunate for U of T. It's one of those things, again, where you sit there and you're like, wow, if I just played a little bit better. Here we get a really cool play from Siekomode, though. Like, well played. Feels really bad to lose after these 2 team fights and then this sick outplay. Ornn, from Arcane, by the way, is obviously even more OP. And this does end up getting a win. But really, you have to be sitting from both sides and being so proud of like, wow, that was such a fun game. It sucks to lose. It really does, especially like this where it's like we had a victory. But at the end of the day, UMich does end up taking the lead. And I'm sure they're extremely proud of that one.
Yeah, and Rakan actually played really well in those last 2 fights. Getting to rewatch them again on the replays was really nice for me to see. Is he got some really clutch engages. He got a 3-man engage on that fight for them to win at the bottom inhibitor, and then even the fight at Baron as well, getting the ult onto 2 as well for Viego to get that reset and to force Jinx flash. Those were really huge, and U of T was in a really good position to win that game. Actually, if they didn't try to go for that end, they continue to scale. Like who knows what would have happened, but that's what happens in these games. Is it's really stressful. It comes down to late decisions like this, and I think U of T should be pretty happy with how they played overall. They were able to come back on their signature champions. They got to show off the Kayle and the Illaoi, and it was really cool and fun to watch them. It's just, UMich played slightly better, and sometimes that's all it takes is just that little edge to take you over the top to win a series like this, especially only a BO3.
That's an excellent point, and I love that you kind of ended on that note where this kind of game, it feels gut-wrenching to lose if you're U of T, but hopefully they can look back on this as soon as they get a little bit more, some time to relax and calm down and sort of de-stress, and they played very well. Like, that was an incredibly close series against a good team. That's a tough round 1 opponent, right? We're seeing a lot of teams that get easier round 1 draws than that. And they put up a hell of a fight. Like, that was such an amazing series to watch, such a fun set of games to watch. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, it was just really we've been blessed with 2 amazing series. Any thoughts before we dive into an interview soon with the winner of that series, the mid laner Omly?
I will say Jinx had, again, those picks, a very high presence, but she did look more like Powder this game than Jinx. She was definitely a side character here instead of the main one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely a series to remember for a while, right? One of the great series of this top 32 for sure. We do have a short break before we have a winner's interview with the mid laner from the winning team, Omly from Michigan. Stay tuned. Oh, we're actually going straight into interview. Omly's already ready. No need to set up for us. Hello, Omly. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you.
Walk me through what the heck happened at the end of that game 3, please.
We were pushing in their base. We had a bit of a split comm, engaging on the Illaoi. The fight broke out really bad. We really did think the game was over, but fortunately we cut their wave, and they tried to end. We didn't think they could end. They ended up getting wiped, which is really unfortunate for them. I'm sure that's going to haunt them for a while, but
Yeah.
we were able to end the game off that, thankfully. So we saved our season.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of a moment to save your season is just incredible, right? I mean, both teams just fighting down to the wire. Oh my goodness gracious. First question for you, my man. What was it like playing against some of those unique picks, right? We saw the Illaoi, we saw the human swap, the Kayle mid. What is it like in a game like that?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to ban a lot of the unique picks out, but they're really a team that kind of plays everything. A lot of off-the-wall picks. What we're really worried about are the unique picks that scale really well and make it hard in the late game, because it's just kind of how collegiate goes. If you outscale, you always have a good chance to win the game. But yeah, we didn't think we were worried about the kill, and unfortunately, some things went rough. The bot 2v2 stalled out the game. Kayle ended up getting really monstrous, so. Yeah, it was really hard to win from there, but luckily we pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, the cast was just tracking Kayle's XP, right? Level 15 hitting the bottom wave as you guys are trying to force the Baron, and unfortunately she just ticked over to 16. But you guys pulled it out in the end, and I know you already sort of talked about it generally, but in that last sort of minute and a half where things are super stressful, who on the team is really stepping up and making those big time calls for you guys?
I think when it really breaks down and gets crazy like that, it's just everyone just talking. Everyone has their own ideas. Everyone's like freaked out, hyped on adrenaline. So when it really breaks down, it's just everyone talking at once.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine that, right? Having been a player myself, in moments like that, it can get super stressful, right? You don't really have like one specific voice really nailing the team down, but just an amazing series overall. And how do you feel like your performance was in this series? I felt like you were one of the star players on your team, right? I thought you played very well in this series, but how do you sort of walk away, going into round of 16 about how you play?
I think game one, I was really not doing much. I was maybe nerves or something. Game two was not particularly close. Game three, I think just from draft, I had a really simple job, so it's nothing like too crazy to do. It's just it really broke down from the bot 2v2 going a little off. I think my performance this series, not super happy with it, but not disgusted by it either. Hopefully I play better next week.
Yeah. The kind of series where, you can take away some lessons going into round of 16. And speaking of that, what are your thoughts on your next matches? I'm not quite sure who you guys played. I haven't kept up with the bracket while we were live, but do you have an idea of who you guys are playing?
Yeah, I mean, unless, something crazy happens, we're playing UST. So obviously they're a really strong team. People are really high on them. But hopefully we show up to that match playing more like we did in game two. And thankfully UST, at least they don't drop super heavy scaling, so maybe the throwing won't be as as scary. But yeah, they're a really strong early game team, so we'll have to come prepared.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's the bracket up on screen now. Yeah, you guys will likely be up against UST, but we'll have to see how that series unfolds. Definitely one to keep our eye on because, I mean, you guys are on this sort of side of the bracket, like the death side of the bracket, people have been dubbing it, right? So many strong teams on this side.
It's UST into UWO into Maryville, assuming no upsets, just to get to finals, which is, that's pretty fun. If we beat all three of them, that would be amazing.
That would honestly be one of the best storylines. Like, there's no way you lose the finals at that point, right? You've already made it through the gauntlet. Wow.
Let's hope. I mean, for now, we're just really focused on our next match. We really want to get to LA, so that's the goal.
Yeah. Hey, that's the way to do it, man. Top 8 would be an incredible accomplishment, and I think you guys have a great shot to make it there, right? It just depends on, coming in prepared next week, and I think you've got a great mindset for it. Do you have anything you'd like to say before we close out this interview?
Well, I mean, that was a crazy game, so I'm still going on adrenaline. But come watch us next week. We're gonna make it a banger no matter what. We're not just going to get rolled over like a lot of teams do by UST, and we're coming to win. So be there.
I love it. I love it. Words of confidence from Omly, the winning mid laner on Michigan. Great series from you, man. Great series for the rest of the team. Take some time, de-stress. Wow. I mean, you really earned it. Congrats on your on your spot in top 16, and we're going to cut it to a short break before we're back with the final series of the day. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.